Greetings and felicitations.
Hip hip hurrah, tally ho.
Hey, cutie pie.
Hey, Puddin'.
We are watching, once again, Star Trek Discovery. This episode?
Civis pacem parabellum.
Which means...
If you want peace, prepare for war.
Makes sense to me.
Oh, yes, it does.
Alright, so let's talk about this episode. Did you enjoy it?
I did.
I did
really
too.
Did.
I did. We got to find out more about Saru. Anything that I find out more about him and his species, I'm gonna like it. We got some teamwork. I like that because Star Trek's about teamwork. We got to see a new planet. Reminded me of Stargate in some ways, so I don't want to say a crossover with other science fiction, but it had that feeling to it. What's the premise of the episode?
They go down to a planet, and so what they're looking for is a way to break through to sense when there's a Klingon cloaked ship.
Yes.
And they think there's something on this planet that can help them with that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just Tyler and Burnham and Saru who beam down to the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And so we learn a lot about them, especially Saru. This was a great Saru episode.
Man, he's fast. He could run.
Yeah.
I liked how those scenes were filmed.
Wasn't it? It had a certain like a certain quality to the visual quality. It was more pale, wasn't it?
It was.
Even though it was.
And then how
bright,
the speed was, it kind of reminded me of like Battlestar Galactica. You know how they have the shaky cam thing, and there's action, and there's tension.
So they did all these things. Yeah, and see, the thing is, we finally got to have an away team. I mean, to actually beam down to a planet. And that was intentional. They said the network actually asked them to actually go to a planet.
That's Star Trek. That's Star Trek, exactly.
It's what we think of as Star Trek. They should go to a planet, you know?
Yes. I want to explore strange new worlds. That's what I want. Meet some kind of species that I'm not familiar with. That's Star Trek, yes.
Yes. And they actually encountered new life on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
It was these energy beings.
Loved it.
They basically communicate through telepathy, it seems like, right? And Saru was the one who actually communicated with them. And so he actually found peace with these beings, right?
Yes.
He was like, he was going to stay there, and he wanted Burnham and Tyler to stay with him. That's why he broke their communicators.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, this is a planet of perfect peace, and I'm so in harmony here. And the people, the beings there, actually live in harmony with the planet. They're one with the planet, as Saru said. Oh, and the planet is Pavo. We'll just say it, because they talk about Pavo and the Pavans. So it was very well done. And to think that Saru, even though he found happiness, because he's used to living in a life of fear, but to find happiness on that planet, but then all of a sudden he couldn't stay there, which we knew when we were watching it.
Mm-hmm.
And Burnham and Tyler had to bring him out of this. Unfortunately, they had to break his state of euphoria there. Because they're fighting a war. I mean, it's like we're here for a mission.
And this reminded me of the crew of the original Enterprise on Star Trek, the original series. How they dealt with Spock when they found out things about Spock, because Spock was stronger than everyone else, smarter, quicker. I mean, they were realizing, boys, he's the dominant force. This guy's not one to be messed with.
Maybe that's the reason he always seems so temperate, and so he talks very, very gentle most of the time, and it, so far up to this point, he's known as a very gentle person. Even though we've seen him stand up for himself. He can be assertive when he needs to, but even when he's assertive, he still does it in a way that's more refined.
Mm-hmm. And I love the banter back and forth between Ash Tyler and Michael Burnham when they're talking about leaving the transmitter alone. Michael said, "The needs of the many," and then Ash interrupted and said, "are worth fighting for, are worth dying for, but so are the needs of the few." And then she jumped in and said, "or the one." Mm-hmm. So we got a reference there to Rathacon.
Yes, with Spock, and
Of course.
it makes sense because Burnham would have gotten those words probably from Sarek and Spock, from Vulcan.
Yes.
And we also have the scenes on the Klingon ship with L'Rell and Cole and Admiral Cornwell.
Mm-hmm.
I like the dynamic between Cornwell and L'Rell, two women having to work together, and L'Rell actually was trying to deceive Cole. I think she actually wanted to get away. She wanted to take Cornwell off the ship. L'Rell had always wanted to get away from Cole, but she was trying to deceive him. She made it look like she wanted to work with him when she didn't.
Yes.
But the fact that she was sympathetic to Cornwell, I like that, and the way they worked together, and their fake fight, which was a good scene.
It was. Yeah. It really was. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think they handled that well. Now, enjoyable episode, moved the story forward, but it was somewhat self-contained.
Yes, another good, which is really a good thing about this, that it was pretty much a self-contained story.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could just go in and watch it now. I mean, it helps to be familiar with the characters, but yeah, it was a self-standing story, and it was one that worked for the characters.
All right, another reason why I think I like this episode a lot is the writer.
Kirsten Beyer wrote this one. She actually wanted to write an episode about peace in the midst of war. So they found this peaceful planet. And that was such a wonderful idea. And, it was something very Star Trek-like, something that Star Trek should explore. And she did a great way of doing it.
Out of everyone in the writer's room, she's the only name that I really respect. I love her books. So we're familiar with her. We're familiar with her background on the screen with Star Trek. I think that she's the one, when there's sensibility in Discovery, I really think she's the voice of reason. And this episode just highlights that. She is. It's not that she needs to, but the show needs to have someone like her that makes Discovery feel like Star Trek.
We have talked about how, I mean, so all of these writers, and then you have Kirsten Beyer that we know is very familiar with Star Trek.
Some of these writers are soap opera writers. Come on now. How do you work on a soap opera and say, yeah, I'm going to write for Star Trek? That's just crazy to me when you think about it.
Well, yeah, and we just talk about the fact that she, like when we see an episode that's not as good, but we know that Kirsten Beyer's on the writing staff, then you think, well, she must have been overridden for that or something like that.
Yeah. Because this is the type of show where they have half a dozen people throwing ideas out and then they combine them.
They do, yeah. So it's like a committee of writers.
Some episodes are more heavily influenced by one writer than others. And without even looking at the credits, we can figure out which ones Kirsten Beyer's involved with heavily.
I mean, we know that she was a fan of the show before she did this.
Sure thing.
Yeah, I mean, because she wrote some of the novels, and she was awesome. And another thing about this episode, because Stamets is still going through his thing where he doesn't feel right and he doesn't know what's going on with him. And he calls Tilly Captain. And no one knows why. Initially,
I thought, when everybody said, oh, he's delusional, I said, I said, this is for a reason. Like, he knows something. Somehow we didn't know exactly first time what it was gonna be, but I knew that he's traveling time. There's more to this guy than what we're seeing immediately. Which is true.
Well,
his character is really the science fiction character out of the show.
He really doesn't know what's going on with himself.
Mm-hmm.
He's got all this stuff, like probably in his head that he doesn't even know
physically,
about yet.
mentally, absolutely.
I mean, we've already seen him with the mirror episode where his mirror image didn't move, and now he's having visions or having delusions, and he doesn't know what it is. He doesn't really know why he called Tilly Captain. So, he'll find out later. So the writers are throwing in things that they know they're going to build on later.
Yes.
So that is part of the continuing arc of this. And that part worked well for the show. I do like how they throw in these things to make you want to find out what's going to happen later.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you do see it later, you'll go, oh, I remember when they talked about that 5 episodes ago, you know?
Yes. Yeah, I
so
agree.
It is, yeah, it was a good
and his
way
characters
to write it.
and his character's getting more likable. Little by little by little, he's softening up, which I like.
Oh, I know, because he was so terrible that on the first episode that he was in, which was like the 3rd episode.
It was hard to rewatch the first appearance of him because I did not like him at the beginning, and I really love him more so, and I like him more so because of the non-TV things that we're reading with him, especially the comic books. I mean,
the comic book that went into his past and explained some things.
Yes. Once you understand his background, when you understand his relationships and what his goals were in the scientific community in Starfleet, he's more endearing. But at the beginning, I was like, I hate jerks in Star Trek. I want to like these characters.
But another thing we're supposed to realize with this character is that he was changed by the spore drive.
Yes.
Like in some way that made him a nicer person.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but of course, and there's also the thing he said at the beginning, how he's supposed to be a scientist and now he's thrown into war,
mm-hmm.
and he never.
Well, the comic book explains that.
Yeah, he never wanted to be on a warship.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and the comic said he joined Starfleet because he thought it would help his science and what he was doing with his work with the mushrooms.
Yes.
But now, having been in the spore drive, having been hooked up to it, having been part of the mycelial network, so we know that changed him in ways that he doesn't even know yet. But in some ways, it also mellowed him out some. It also made him, a more likable person, as he said. But yeah, I think he's not as hateful as far as the position that he's in now, and he still wants to succeed in his scientific endeavor.
Agreed.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join our Facebook group. Live long, and may the Force be with you. Nanu Nanu.